Oh, peace and blessings. It is your boy, Eli Rax, a.k.a. Vibes, and I'm here with my brothers, Mr. Glass Half Full, El Jefe. We are all in the building, and why not give you a revival update here? What's going on around the New York freaking Giants? And boy, we're going to have a good conversation today because John Mara actually said to the media that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are safe no matter how the season goes from here on in. Seems like those guys are safe no matter what. I just want to ask you guys first. Is that like hogwash? Like you guys actually believe that they actually safe at this point? And I'm gonna start with El Jefe on this one.
Well, Jeff, before you go, let me give you the exact quote, right? Let's
Yeah,
start with
please.
the quote.
Please.
Obviously, he says, obviously, we're all disappointed with where we're at right now, but I'm going to say one thing. We are not making any changes this season, and I do not anticipate making any changes in the offseason either. Go.
Thank you. I think what he's doing is he's trying to paint a picture of stability. The last thing he wants is to fire another head coach or GM. Just like the previous coaches, he signs them up for 5-year deals. He wants them to be here. And I think it's fully guaranteed, right? He's paying these guys no matter what. He's still paying Joe Judge. So he doesn't want to fire anyone else. He wants stability, and it would make no sense to do an in-season firing. That really wouldn't help anything. You would look so dysfunctional if you did that. Like the Jets, it wasn't a good look for the Jets. They're 0-2 since firing their coach. So like it doesn't fix anything. But I think he's just giving a false sense of security. I wish we all had that kind of job security. No matter how you perform, you're safe. You're safe because I don't want to look bad. I'm with you, boss. Just keep signing those checks and we're good, man. But it really doesn't make sense. And I know we're going to go further into it, but I'll start with that. How about you, Spee?
Yeah, I mean, I think what you think about John Mara, whatever you think about him, this was a very calculated quote. This is a very safe quote. It's really a nothing burger quote when it comes down to it, right? Like all he said was pretty much what we already knew. He's not going to fire anybody midseason. Again, that makes no sense. You're not going anywhere this year, better or worse. And the key word here is anticipate. I don't anticipate firing anybody going into next the following season. That leaves the door open, right? That leaves the door open for
nice choice of words.
If you don't, if something anticipated, something you didn't anticipate happens, you could still leave that door open for say, hey, I didn't anticipate us to go 2-14 or whatever, 2-15. So that leaves the door open for if the disaster happens. And I think we all said that, right? Like if they don't win another game for the rest of the year, and Daboll makes a fool out of himself in a press conference, something happens. He could be, it's not ironclad. He could go. Who knows? But Mara doesn't want that. He wants them back. And if things go status quo, we win 4+ games. I think that they'll be back. They'll get their chance at a QB. And I think there's a lot of underlying things that we'll talk about here within this quote that I want to talk about more. But I think it was a nothing burger quote when it comes down to it, when he was asked, E, what do you think?
We got to do this again. Here's the tango, right? We said it a million times on New York Revival, like, hey, those guys are safe no matter what. Now, I'm going to double down on it. They don't have to win any more games throughout this season.
Oh,
those guys are safe. Those guys are safe as safe can get at this point. The only time John Mara will actually do something, if it's something that kind of embarrasses the franchise. For an example, a Joe Judge situation where Daboll gets on the microphone and it just sounds like he's berating this media, where he's trying to defend himself and it just comes off a little crazy. That's the only time you'll see Brian Daboll a hell up out of here, and Joe Schoen might go too.
If Daboll starts wearing 3 sleeves or some shit like that, he's out of here, bro.
He's gone. I'm telling you, if he gains some weight and he doesn't look as slim as he used to, he's out of here, all right? All joking aside, though. But all joking aside, they don't have to win any more games. I think Mara understands and knows that we have a disability at quarterback at this point. I think he understands.
That's a way to put it.
Lack of a better word.
We are quarterback challenged.
Quarterback challenged at this point. So I think Mara understands, like, okay, we're going to need our signal caller, and we're going to have to, just like he gave Daniel Jones the I think we screwed this guy up. We didn't give him the tools to be successful.
Mhm.
Can apply to the Daboll. You know what? We screwed Daboll up. We gave him a quarterback that wasn't his. Maybe now it's his turn to go get his guy, and let's see what he can do. Now, I do understand Giants fans will say, well, if he gets his quarterback and they don't win any more games, then they fire him. It's just putting them in the same situation as Daniel Jones. I don't even think they'll fire him after that. I'm gonna be honest with you. If if the quarterback shows promise that they draft, they win 6 games, it's still better than 4. If they win 7 games, it's still better. Those guys will still be here, in my opinion. Unless it all goes awry and astray, these guys will still be here even after they'll get their quarterback to develop them. I think John Mara's had enough of firing people. He wants continuity. And I do think he has the right person at head coach. I don't know about GM. I could debate GM all day. For the ones that love Joe Schoen, have at it. I could just debate it. He got to hit another home run for me. But I think he has the proper head coach here in this building. And you don't want to chase that type of coach out of the building too soon. I think Daboll can actually coach this team to a playoff, hopefully to a Super Bowl. But we'll see, man. I'm not mad. I'm not shocked by this decision. In fact, I'm glad they're keeping him. Let's see what they can do. Let's see if they can continue to build.
I got a question for you guys. If Daboll didn't have that first year, Shane and Daboll, I guess, where they got nine wins, got to the playoffs, do you think we have the same that Mara has the same patience and lets them have next year?
Nope.
Oh man, I don't know, because you would have nothing to hang your hat on if that's the case, right? That's why we think Daboll is a good coach. Shane, I don't think Shane had much to do with that year's success. He had no flexibility with the cap, and that was the Evan Neal and Thibodeau draft, right?
Yeah,
which were seemingly very obvious picks, and then the rest of the rounds, there's really nothing to write home about in terms of like a home run.
Yeah, they didn't contribute that year. Yeah,
Eli made some really good points. So in that, the one thing is, there's no reason you would fire them after next year if they got their quarterback in this upcoming draft. You don't. If you fire a head coach, GM, one or the other, when a quarterback is a rookie, then you're in this cycle of dysfunction because now you're starting over. You're wasting a quarterback's rookie contract. Let Daboll cook with that dude if that's the case. So I agree. If it's not this offseason, which we don't think it will be, it won't. Let them ride it. Let them do their 5 years then. Let them serve their 5 years.
Well, actually, I would give them, to further to your point, I would give them a 3-year extension after this. Because if they're gonna get next year, right, and next year's not a must win, then you got 2 years, right? Then they have 2 years if they.
So I think that would be their full 5 years, then, right? This is year 3, and then let them get their next 2 years.
So. Well, so next year would be their 4th year. You're saying next year would be their 4th year.
Next year would be their 4th year with a rookie, and then they get their 5th year, which would be the 2nd year with the.
Okay. Well, I would still, I mean, you don't want whatever the case is, and if that's the case, I don't want a lame duck coach. I thought it came together in 2022. It's a 5-year contract. Yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. That means the deal runs through 2026 at the very least. So So yes, if they get their quarterback, and again, this is why I don't think they're going to go that veteran path. Right? You get your quarterback, you pretty much guarantee yourself if that quarterback shows a glimpse of anything next year, that gets you the following year regardless. So I think you go with your guy. But I want to ask you one more thing about the GM spot here. If the Giants make a trade and they trade their guys like Azeez Ojulari and they stock up draft picks, Slayton Ojulari are the 2 targets, right? Does that give you a little bit more faith in what Joe Shane's doing, or does it not matter what they do in that case?
You mean if they trade those particular 2 players
for draft?
Yeah, for draft picks at the deadline.
You'll say you'll have more faith in him because he understands the assignment that these guys are on an expiring contract, right? So you go, okay, he read the room. He learned from some Xavier McKinney. He learned from Saquon Barkley, and he's getting rid of these guys to get more draft picks to build for the future. I wouldn't mind that. That shows you, okay, he learned from his mistake. He's competent. I mean, look what he's doing now during the season, right? Where the kicker didn't, he didn't have a kicker in that Washington game. Next minute, they were working people out and signing people left and right. Offensive linemen. They say, you know what? Izudu ain't there. Let's go freaking find somebody. So it seems like Joe Schoen is learning from mistakes. So if that's the case and he learned from those 2, like Saquon and Xavier, and he trades those guys, kudos. You read the room. You kept your job for another year or another 6 months when it come to me, all right? But I'm just saying, you cap it for another year. Kudos, you're competent GM at that point. But turn them into something great, because it's just been misses for the past few years.
Eli's really speaking my mind today. Like everything he said, I'm like, fuck, that was my point. Damn. But yeah, it would show that they're thinking of the future and learning from their mistakes. Every GM has misses. Every GM makes mistakes, but you want to see them, number one, move off their mistakes, be willing to move off your mistakes sooner than later, and then learn from them. And like that's what you could hope for. Is you got to start looking towards tomorrow. And the other point that Eli made in his original run was that they had a deal in place when they gave Daniel that contract. Like Mara wanted Daniel to get a fair shot. This was the agreement. 2 years, build around him. If it doesn't work after 2 years, you can get out. And they're seeing that through. That's what's happening here. And I don't see them going like the expensive veteran route, like the Matthew Stafford rumors that Ethan completely just made up, which I respect.
Respect that.
Right. But like that, while that would obviously be an upgrade at the position, he is an older quarterback, but he'd be expensive. And Daniel Jones is still getting at least $23 million next year. That would be the dead hit. So you're talking about 20 plus whatever Stafford would be, which would be at least 40. So now you still have a really expensive quarterback room. So the draft makes more sense than just the Giants' luck. It's not a quarterback draft. This is what we do, which is a separate conversation. But either way, you got to get some more upside in that room. I know Spiro has talked about this weekend could be it at the quarterback position. They got to start thinking about tomorrow, and that injury clause has got to matter at some point. Adam Schefter started bringing that up again. Like, read the room. We're 2-5. Don't be on the hook for $47 million next year to a quarterback you can't play.
And I want to talk a little bit more about this, right? Because there's more to the quote, more to what John Mara said last night. He said also, when asked about Daniel Jones at quarterback and the injury guarantee, John Mara totally punted on the question. He said, "I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to even talk about Jones," which to me is kind of music to my ears. Like if you took nothing else from that conversation, it's that. I think that was the best thing that Giants fans want to hear. He could have said, "Hey, DJ's still trying. We still are not giving him the best shot." He said, "I'm not even talking about Daniel Jones." He's putting a kibosh on it.
For once, you feel like I'm not going crazy listening to these people talk. Like the way Daboll's like, Daniel's our starter. Daniel's our starter. Maybe they had an 8-game agreement, right?
Yeah.
He's coming back from ACL. He's got a new line to get in place. He's got a new alpha receiver. Give him 8 games. Maybe that was the deal. And then if we're dead in the water after 8 games, you go to Drew Lock, you tank without tanking, and you think about next year because we got 2 more years.
I totally agree. And listen, and you're right. It's funny because usually when Daniel Jones's name is brought up, he's like, "Oh man, we didn't give him a fair shake." We got some pieces around him. But the fact that he doesn't even want to go into any type of conversation after the injury clause, except right now at this point, I think he understands. Okay, it's time. Like, we gave everything he needed to be successful. A lot of people are Giants fans right now and be like, well, we still didn't give him anything. The depth, the offensive line is this and that. But when the offensive line was playing good, he was still putting up mediocre numbers. It was well enough. We gave him credit. We was like, all right, he played well. He didn't turn the ball over. 230 yards, a touchdown, 2 touchdowns. Cool. No problem. But he wasn't like, oh my God, Daniel Jones is that guy. He was nowhere convincing to where we thought he was and even in hindsight, looking at the playoff run, looking at it right now in its totality, he still wasn't good. You know what I mean? So, but the fact that he just wasn't, we could debate that another show.
You know what? I'll just add one quick factor. The biggest thing there is he was protecting the football. So when Saquon is going off, he's not making mistakes. He was doing enough for the Giants to win games because the defense was playing well and like it was enough to win games. When he's making mistakes, he can't overcome them. And when the Giants make mistakes, whether it's drop passes or penalties and stuff like that, we can't overcome them. And that's where he falls really, really short. What we saw in 22 was him protecting the ball, managing the games like that. You can technically win with, but you're not going to win a Super Bowl that way in today's NFL. And it just wasn't enough. I mean, but I do like the Minnesota game. That version of him just doesn't exist in real life. And that's the problem.
It doesn't. And it's not even, and he hasn't even got back to that at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even look like what his contract year was at all at this point. Back from injury, he doesn't look like that Daniel Jones. And I think that was his ceiling. What you saw in the playoffs was his ceiling.
Yep.
He cannot reach that anymore. I mean, again, unless you're a Hall of Famer, and Daniel Jones is nowhere near that. You know what I mean? So I think he just reached that point, and now you're just seeing him. He's just okay. He's a below average quarterback. All right, it's time to go. It's time to go. And like I said, the fact that John Mara actually sees that and doesn't want to talk about it at this point, I'm excited, man. That shows you he's not meddling anymore, and that shows you there was a little shake hands and wink. Hey, let's give him all the tools and let's pay him because we messed him up. But however, you'll get to keep your job. This all coming to play. If you guys don't see this now outside in the revivalist land, this all is coming to light here that you see. All the conspiracy theories we thought, it's kind of coming to fruition here.
At this point. It feels like it, dude. It feels like this whole thing is what we thought. Like, Mara kind of not forced, heavily influenced this Jones decision. Like, I don't want, because God forbid you say forced. Nobody forces someone. Like, they weren't putting his feet to the fire, but we saw how he kind of tried to heavily influence the Barkley decision. It was worse with Jones, and I was coming off a playoff win where he looked great. So there's no leg to stand on anymore, and I think that you're seeing the guard go up. And everybody that tweets about it says, "Hey, the Giants are going to have their crack at a QB. They're going to have their crack at a QB," and it all lines up to what we kind of assumed.
Let me ask you guys this, totally off subject, and it should be probably a whole different show, but just really quick. Which quarterback? Because there's only two that looks like it's hot coming out. Shador and I believe Cam, right? Is it Cam?
What's his name?
Ward. Cam Ward?
Cam Ward.
Who do you like? They're going to get one of those guys. Who you're really comfortable with at this point?
I don't see Sanders happening for the Giants, just from a Giants way of doing things. And I'm not sure we're going to be picking in the top 3. So for those two reasons, I don't think Sanders would happen. But Patriots may not win a whole lot of games. They have their quarterback, though. That's a potential trade partner. Carolina completely whiffed on the first overall pick. Not a great look for a GM there. But like, are they gonna deal him and get another quarterback? So remains to be seen, but Spiro certainly has a better grip on the college quarterbacks.
So what I will say is, personally, I think guys that could work with our quarterback guru, in my opinion, or quarterback with whatever you want to call Daboll, guys that will work with Daboll. It's the first two you listed. Those are the pretty much close to slam dunk as you can get from like top 5 picks. I think they're going to be top 5 picks unless something goes horribly wrong for those two. Those two guys are it, Shador and Cam. And Cam seems more of the fit because he could also run. Like, never mind the personality thing, never mind Dion, whatever else goes on with Shador. But Cam could run and he could throw, and he's got the arm to do it. But Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, check him out this weekend versus Texas A&M. Primetime game. It's a top 15 matchup between the two teams. This game, if he does well, this puts him firmly into the QB3, like on the map, round 1, top 15. So he's probably the best pure passer. Well, second best pure passer in the draft. Shador is number 1. I think Nussmeier is really good.
Is he athletic too? Has he got
no, you know what? That's the problem. He's great in the pocket. I compare him to Joe Burrow. He's not going to run a lot.
But he can apparently run for a 60-yard touchdown against the Giants.
Yeah, exactly. He might be able to sneak one in there. He might be able to gain a first down, but he's not. His mobile quarterback is not.
You're not going to draw plays.
Right. And then the fourth guy who's been so up and down this year is Jalen Milroe from Alabama. He looked like a bona fide star versus Georgia a couple weeks ago, and then Tennessee game he looked like an idiot. It's a roller coaster right now, and he's raw, but he has talent. There's talent to be worked with, and he is obviously as mobile as they come. It's just an absolute threat behind center to run. His arm is good. He's just got to get better as a passer and developed, and that's the kind of guy I would like Daboll to get his hands on. Right,
that you could probably get in the 10 to 13 range.
And the wild card is Drew Allar, who I think would probably benefit from coming back next year. But this kid's got he's the prototype. Size, arm, strength, the whole nine, pedigree, Penn State. But he's got a big next 2 weeks at Wisconsin and then at versus Ohio State for Penn State. If he does well in those 2 games, he gets into the first round talk. So there's 5, but basically there's really just 4. That
it's good to know.
Yeah, eyes on every. And again, Milrow with two big SEC games coming up in a row. At LSU is another one of them. At Mizzou this week. So keep your eyes on those 2 guys as well as Shador, obviously, and Cam Ward.
And we'll do a proper show if he's a Giant.
This is what I want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. This is what I want to kind of get out there. Last thing on this. I know last year was an all-time quarterback class, but the Giants liked the top 3 guys. That just because they didn't like the other 3 doesn't mean that like they pass on the whole class, right? That they loved Daniels, they loved Caleb, and they loved May. It seemed like that was what they really wanted. So they didn't pass on the whole class. They passed on the QB3 class. So you might have your ability to get your QB1 or 2 in this class, or 3. So it's different. It's not apples to apples. I know last year's class was better overall, but you could still get potentially the same talent as a J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix with whoever you're picking this year. So I know this QB class doesn't have the star power, but you should compare J.J. and Penix to who they have available this year. That's the comparison, not the class altogether. I want to get that out there.
That's fair.
That's great, Speed. Yeah. That's great. But guys, this is of course short little show for you guys. I just want to ask you this before we get out of here. Are we happy with John Mara's decision? Quick thumbs up or thumbs down. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm happy with that.
I think it's the right move for now.
Yeah,
it is, man. Of course, it's your boy Eli Rax, aka Vibes, Mr. Glass Half Full, El Jefe. We see you guys on Tuesday, or maybe sooner than that. Peace and blessings. Yes, sir.
Let's go.